You're visiting the Mom Next Door and our stories of faith. I'm glad you dropped by for a visit. Please stay a while and hear what the Lord has done in the lives of moms just like you and me.
So, I always start off the show with where I met my guest. Funny thing here, though, I'm not sure either of us can remember how or where we met. We've been friends on Facebook for a while, and we seem to track on a lot of topics. But recently, Michelle made a post, and I thought, oh my goodness, I need to have her on the show. But then the funny thing is, when I went to go message her, and I looked, and we had like a whole series of conversations trying to figure out how we knew each other and for what purpose our connection was made. And the conclusion was just that God must have connected us and we would just wait until that time. So today is the day that I got to meet Michelle in person via Zoom. And the first time we really got to talk outside of Facebook. So Michelle, why don't you take a second and just introduce your family?
Okay, well, I'm Michelle Leonard. I'm from Oklahoma, a little small town, a little rural town outside of Tulsa area. And we have 10 children. Our oldest is 30 and it stair steps down to 8. We have 6 grandbabies. And so that's really fun. We have 3 married children. So we just have 7 at home. I say that and a lot of people are like, just 7. But to me, that's, smaller, I guess. But anyway, so we're just really thankful. My children that are home have helped me with a child evangelism fellowship outreach to our local community. And we do outreaches at our church. So we're real busy in ministry, though we're not preachers. My oldest son is, but like my husband and I, of course, we're just servants, I guess. I'm so thankful for the Lord and all he has done for us. And we homeschool. I guess that's kind of all I can think of at the top of my head.
That's fantastic. And so you even just dropped it. What we ended up talking about on Messenger as we were trying to even introduce ourselves, like, how could we have ever met in the first place? Were we in the same place at the same time? What have we been involved in? And what's funny is one of the connection points that we both had was CEF, Child Evangelism Fellowship. And what's funny is our involvement with CEF has always been in Oregon. And your involvement has been in Oklahoma. So we have nowhere we would have met for CEF, but yet it was something common between us. And so I think I just want to introduce what CEF is. And that is a ministry to reach children with the gospel of Christ. And so tell me about your experience, maybe how you started or what that looks like for your family. And maybe we need to start with what is a Good News Club? What is a 5-day club? Your involvement. We might need to do a little description as you share about that.
Okay. Well, the way we got started was a miracle, and I'll share a little backstory about that. My brother is this CEF director, was in North Carolina. And so he had been begging me to start one in our area because where we grew up, and I kept telling him I'm too busy. I don't have time. We're doing so many other things. But I was praying. And when you pray and you ask Jesus to help you, he does. And I was praying and asking God to help our family. I want our family to be world changers for him. I want to reach people. And so I was praying that specific prayer. And lo and behold, my brother connected me with our Tulsa director. I said, go ahead and connect me. I'll just hear him out and see what he has to say. Because I love children's ministry. My mother, we taught children's church for many years. My mama actually had a hard childhood and Christian people loved her. And that's why I know Jesus, because some godly people reached out to my mama, who was her daddy was an alcoholic, things like that. They didn't go to church, but God radically changed my mama's life. And so I saw that potential, like that we can help another child who's struggling. So it's always been near and dear to all of our hearts because of our background. But anyway, kind of a long story. My brother connected us. And it just so happened, not just so happened, God always has a plan, but there was a CYIA camp coming up like in 2 weeks after I contacted this man, and they had room for my four children, the oldest that were home at the time and still are. So we said, okay, tell me more about it. Long story, it was, the cost and things. And I told my husband, I'm scared to send my kids away with people I do not know. for this time. And so I said no. And the man told us, don't let that be a hindrance to you, blah. It's just a miracle. And I could talk for a long time about that. So I'll kind of stop. But God my husband said, Michelle, I really feel like this is what we're supposed to do. So packed up my kids and we took them to the CYA camp. And I will tell you, it changed our life. And I've had a burden for our local community for a while. There was a young man quite some years ago, that's my brother's age, and he took his own life. And it broke my heart because I thought, who told him about Jesus? Did he know? Did he know? Does his family know? And I just wanted to reach out to everyone. There's so many people that are hurting. And anyway, so I had a burden for our community, and there wasn't a CEF camp or not, in the school there. So my kids went through the training and we started just immediately into our local public school. And I was shocked that you could go into a public school and present the gospel like that. I mean, I knew you could pray around the flagpole, and things like that, but to actually go in and present the gospel like that was shocking to me. And the school we work with is very rural and very poor, and the principal is a Christian. And so we are very, very blessed with the things that she allows us to do. It is a little different. I'm reminded of that all the time by my director. It is a little different, the things she allows us to do, but we are just she allows us to send tracts home with children, things like that. So she said until the state tells her to stop. So anyway, she's very, very good. But anyway, and they call us gym church. And so we meet in the gym, and we haven't been able to since COVID, but that's kind of the rough. And my daughter summed it up. One of my daughters summed it up so well. She said, I've been in church all of my life, and I've never, ever heard the gospel explained like CEF does. And she said, I wish all of my teachers would have known how to teach the gospel and Bible lessons like we learned in CEF. So it's been a complete life change for our family, just so wonderful. And I love it.
We kind of have a little similar story in that too, wouldn't you know? And so our oldest got to be that age, about 13, and our local CEF director was like, hey, why didn't you send Caleb to CYIA this summer? And I thought, not a chance. I'm not sending him away to some summer camp where I don't know anybody and I'm not there, and he doesn't get a cell phone, so he's not going to be in contact. So I was really resistant. But as I talked to them about it more, it was like, this is such a good opportunity for him to go and to learn, to share his faith, to be more grounded in his own faith. And I warmed up to the idea. We went the first year kind of thinking, well, this is a test. If it doesn't go well, we're never going to do it again. And it was great. And the next year, 2 years later, my daughter went. And then 2 years after that, my twins went. And so we've been involved with CEF for 12 years. Our oldest 4 children, actually our oldest 5, have all done like 5-6 years with CEF. So I want to jump back and say what CYIA is. That stands for Christian Youth in Action. And Child Evangelism Fellowship, CEF, is like the umbrella organization. And CYIA is like their teen training program for the listeners. So Michelle and I would both send our kiddos to this training, and it's less of a fun summer camp and more of really a training camp where they learn how to present the gospel. They learn what the wordless book is. If you're familiar with that, it's the colors of green, gold, red, white, and black, to get to use that as a tool to present the gospel. I don't know if they do it where you are at, but they also even take our teens out one day into local parks and have them do open air ministry where they walk up at a park and ask a parent, hey, would you mind if I tell your children a gospel story? And so it is such a unique ministry because not only are our teens being equipped, they're reaching out to children, presenting for that, but it really shores up their faith too, to understand what they believe and what the gospel is and what the Lord has done for them.
Well, I do agree with that. In fact, I was going to say that my daughter, who was saying that she'd never heard the gospel explained like that, had struggled with her salvation. Like, she would come to our room at night and, just say, Mom, I prayed, but I just don't know. And I would just say, well, just pray again. I mean, you want to make sure that you're right with God. But when she heard it explained, and when she really, because I would take it out and I would show her in the Bible, but I didn't know how to explain it like they explained it. I had never been through that, even though I had taught children's church for all those years. It was just so different. The way they explained it, and or the way they just share, and you're taught to dig through the scriptures. And one of my boys too, it just, the way that they teach you to go through your Bible and study for yourself and learn. And so when Rebecca went through the CEF, the CYIA camp, and it taught her to go through her Bible and just study and find out for herself, she just told me, she said, I don't struggle anymore. I know that I know, because I read it right here in the scripture, and the devil can't take that away from me. So it's just such a wonderful thing for our family, just the reassurance that we can have that it's in the Bible. Jesus is there for us and all of these things. And I can just see it in my own kids' life. And I know you can attest to the same. I mean, their Bibles are just out highlighted, and it's just, this is such a thing. And I wish I would have had that when I was young. I tell them all the time, I'm so proud of you guys. And it's just such a wonderful gift that's been given to our family.
And another thing that's cool, actually, beyond when they're even not involved anymore. So I have a son in the Army, and one time a couple of years ago, he called me and he was like, Mom, this is so cool. I was down in the laundry room in the barracks for the single soldiers, and I was doing my laundry, and this guy that was there just started asking me some questions about the gospel. He knew I was like this church guy, right? Because he doesn't go do all the things that all the other soldiers are doing. And so this guy down in the laundry room started asking him all these questions. And he goes, Mom, it's like all that training and everything I learned for those 5 years of CYA just came out. And I totally was able to present the gospel to him and share the plan of salvation. And it was so awesome to be able to do that, because that's why I joined the Army, was to do it as a ministry. And so that was so awesome. I was so proud of him, and it was really good. Okay, so two things that I want to actually, again, for clarification, what they are. There's two other aspects of CEF. One is called Good News Clubs, and another is called 5-Day Clubs. It sounds like your family has been more involved with Good News Clubs, so I'm going to let you take that one. But our family's been involved more with their 5-Day Clubs. And so the 5-Day Clubs are like a summer ministry where moms open up their homes. Families just say, hey, I've got a front yard and I've got a bunch of kids in the neighborhood. And so CEF sends out their teen missionaries to go around different areas in their community and set up little 5-day clubs in the yard. So what that looks like is, I, as a mom, say, I have this yard, I'm going to invite all the neighborhood kids, and then the teens show up and they teach a Bible story, a missionary story, they do songs, they do games, they do a memory verse. And the cool part is that you get to build relationship with your neighbors and with your neighbors' kids. And so it's just 1 week out of the summer, but it is a springboard for that relationship that you can just nurture all year long. So that's what 5-day clubs are. Why don't you share what Good News Clubs are and how your family uses that as part of your family ministry?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So we do the Good News Clubs. We have done the 5-day clubs as well when the kids first started, but we do the Good News. We go into our local school system, and again, I was just so surprised that you could do that. So you pick a day. We go on Mondays. It's the same type situation where you present, you play games with them, let them run off some of that energy, and then you sing some gospel songs, the memory verse, the missionary story, and then the gospel story. And then after we do all of that, normally a normal club would go home. We have been allowed by the school to actually go a little step further, and we've turned it into ministry, because a lot of the kids in our area are poor and things like that, we actually have a dinner. We have a dinner. We usually do hot dogs or something like that. You can't do that with CEF's name on it. So we end our CEF at a certain time. And this is just something that our family, through some local churches that help us, some people, some friends, they help us provide the finances for that. And we just told the Lord, as he provides, we will do. And so we have turned that into, we do other outreaches. We've done some Christmas outreaches to where we bring the kids from the local community and have a gift for them. We present the gospel, and I love it because parents come to these events and the parents hear the gospel as well. So, and then we do the Easter, any type of big thing that comes around that I can feed them a hot dog and tell them about Jesus. I don't do it. My kids do all of that part. But I mean, I have on occasion stepped in and shared some things, but for the most part, it was super sweet at our Christmas thing this year that we did. One of the boys that has really been through a lot raised his hand and asked me if he could share something. I was a little scared because you know how that goes. You never know what someone's going to say. And all these parents are here, but it was the sweetest thing. He said, I just want to share that Jesus is real. And you might be thinking that Jesus isn't real, but he's always been there for me. And I know he's real. And that was just so sweet because I thought, we never know. These adults that are listening, they heard that precious little boy say, Jesus is real. I know he's real. He's always been there for me. And it was just such a touching, sweet, sweet thing. And so that's kind of what our family does. And we absolutely love it. It's helped us cultivate some relationships with the townspeople that we normally wouldn't have had because we live outside of town. It's just been an amazing experience. And I highly recommend it. I tell everybody who will listen, you got to get involved with CEF.
Yeah, that's really good. And before I hit record, we were also talking about just being older moms. So we're both grandmas now, and we have a wide range of children in our home. And I think sometimes, like when we were first starting out as moms, at least me, it kind of felt like we need to choose ministry or family. You know, it feels like my job as a mom is to pour into my children and to raise my children. And that is my ministry. And it truly is. But it doesn't have to be your only ministry. And also, ministry does not need to and probably shouldn't totally separate our family. And it's we have so many opportunities with our family, with our children, to be in ministry, and it shores up our children's faith simultaneously.
Yes, I agree so much. Yes, I agree. And I think what came to my mind when you were saying that is my mama always said that your kids are watching you, and they're gonna do what you do. They're not gonna listen to what you say. So, you know, to be sure that you're doing what you want your kids to do. So I love serving. I love loving people. It's just something that I always teaching kids or whatever. I love stuff like that. So I just kind of brought my kids alongside with me as we would do things. And my husband and I, as we would do things, we just kind of brought the kids along. And so I never, though sometimes it would have been easier to leave them with somebody else or something. We try to be, careful as you bring your kids along. You have to watch them and things, but just to include them in, the serving with you or things like that. And I know, I don't know, that's just what we've always tried to do, is just to bring them alongside. And then when CYA came into our life, it was kind of funny. It's like my kids are bringing me alongside, like I'm following them and I'm helping them, do some of the things. And then of course, it's an amazing thing to kind of hand it off to your kids and you just be the quote unquote adult, I guess. But yeah, we've always done things as a family, but you're right. And I think sometimes I felt kind of defeated as a young mom because I always wanted to be a missionary. I always want to do these great things. And I thought, I'm just a mom. And I had someone tell me, no, you're not just a mom. A mom is the greatest thing that you can be. And you can, for a woman to raise these godly children for the Lord, they said, you might not be able to be a missionary, but you can raise missionaries, or you can raise kids that will go out into the world and, share the gospel. You don't have to be a missionary. I think that was something I thought I have to have some label or something, but you can always love people. You can always share the gospel. You can love people right where you're at. You don't have to have something or be somebody, special. I mean, there are so many people who need just to hear Jesus loves you or something like that. You don't have to, I don't know, I guess I thought there had to be some fancy sign on my door or something to label who I was or something. I don't really know what I struggled with, but it was just right there within my family. And because, when you have children, when you have young children, when you go out in public, especially if you have a pretty big crew, but anybody, children draw attention when you go places, and you can always offer someone a smile or something like that. So we would always get it. I'm sure you did too. Are those all yours? And I would always say, yes, God has blessed me, they're all mine, things like that. So you can always say something for the Lord and you never know what seeds God will plant to bring those people, maybe something from their childhood or something like that. Just to, I don't know, I think you can always just speak up for Jesus or do something. We can all do something. It doesn't have to be something grand like I always thought it needed to be.
So true. So true. I remember I was at a conference, and the speaker, the title of the conference, or the theme for the weekend, was changing the world from the heart of your home. And I think that is so important, to not think that this is a compartmentalized, well, they're young and I can't do anything and my hands are tied and ministry will be someday. Whereas instead, we recognize that God has put us in this season where we are right now, and we can spend each day for the glory of God, and working with our children and ministering with our children is just part of that.
Yeah, that's so, so true. And it goes by so fast. And I think sometimes we just don't realize the things that we do, and that they just become our habits or things like that. But they really are big things for Jesus, just to raise our children to love him. My mama always taught me, to have a personal relationship with Jesus. And I think that's just so good for us, just to, our mission is our kids. And I guess I hadn't thought that, you can include other things like that, but just to teach your kids and to take them with you, and just to, it just all can work together, instead of, like you were saying, because I felt like that too. I can't do this or I can't do that but God just, and here I am. I told my husband this too, like, God has allowed me to go and to do some of the things that I've always wanted to do, to go out and love these people, and to, because I always thought, well, I have to go to Africa, or I have to go here, or I have to go there to make a difference from the Lord. But no, you can go to your right next to your neighbor, like you guys were saying about your 5-day clubs. And you know, there's somebody right next door, somebody in the town that you go to for your thing, your things. Our town is a little rural area, so there's nothing around us, but they do have a school, and there's just people everywhere that need Jesus. Truly, you don't have to be a foreign missionary. You can just be a missionary right there in your own home and your own local town.
Yeah, and I don't think it has to be terribly formal, like going to the grocery store and being nice to the cashier, being nice and asking them how their day is a ministry. Seeing, I know it's kind of helping the little old lady cross the road, but it's like a very real thing. You see a neighbor in need and you jump in, and we present the gospel through our lives. How much more effective is that? How much more impact does that have than just saying it, but instead being the hands and feet of Christ, being the church, and building those relationships? And it seems to me right now, again, the older I get, the more I see young moms, especially, that are thirsty for that relationship and that mentoring, and somebody to just tell them, hey, it's going to be okay. I've been there, I've walked that road, and I felt the same way you feel. And these basic interactions are springboards to that.
Yeah, very much so. And I think, like what you were saying too, Jesus says, if you've done it unto the least of these, you've done it unto me. And I don't think you don't think of people as being the least of these, but I think maybe in the least of the things, like, well, all I did was give a drink of water, or all I did was give them a hot dog, or all I did was this. But people know that you love them. All I did was hold somebody's baby, or all I did was, it just seems so little to us. But to those people, we don't know what their day was like. We don't know what they've been through. We don't know what their childhood was like. We don't know if anyone has showed them love. And just to think of it as, and that I think has been really good for me to just do it as unto Jesus, and he'll bless it. We're not responsible for what happens, for what comes of it. That's Jesus is going to do the drawing. Jesus is going to do the calling, but we're responsible for our part. And he would sow those seeds. And I don't know, I just try to think of it kind of like that too. Just little things that I can do.
Yeah.
Just thinking of what I needed when I was a younger mom, what I needed, what I still need. I mean, that's silly to say I don't need it now, but just the encouragement, to go forward and to be, and so many times we don't think, I know for myself, maybe I don't have anything to offer, or I'm not as good as so-and-so. She's way better at things than I am, or I have this weakness and I'm not a good housekeeper. I'm not this or I'm not that. Instead of working and realizing the strengths that God has given us. I mean, we can always work on our weaknesses and pick ourselves apart about that, but to work on our strengths, to lean into our strengths that God has given us, because he has given us all gifts. They might be buried maybe by what other people said or things that pop into our mind, but they're there. Jesus has given us all strengths to do and to serve and to work for him. And so I was thinking about that, about the class that we're starting for the moms. I just had a thought. It just popped into my mind. And then I put it out there, I was scared to death. You're putting this out there, opening yourself up for rejection, I guess. Nobody's going to even want to come to my class. And then I've just been so shocked and almost kind of saddened, not saddened, but breaks my heart for all the people who do need encouragement, all the people who do need to feel loved and things like that. And so if an idea pops into your head, don't just dismiss it. Don't just allow those thoughts to come in and mess things up, because you never know what God is starting. Because if I had just blown my brother off, I think about that so many times. When he sent me the message with the guy's name, if I would have just said, "Oh, leave me alone, Larry, I'm so busy." But instead I took that first step to make that phone call, and then God just took off with it, and it just, so I think just in everything in our lives, if we just start walking, God will open some doors. And once he opens the doors, if we just walk through them and continue walking, he'll keep opening. And then maybe he'll turn us a different way, or maybe he'll do this, and I don't know. I just think just walk forward with the strengths that God has given you. And just something like that, just keep on walking. If you need encouragement too, seek out podcasts or people, or I know COVID has kind of made things difficult for face-to-face interaction for some people, but just reach out and find people and pray and ask. I have just, through my mothering and my parenting and my marriage and my life and everything, I don't know why it surprises me when I pray for things and God sends them. But, I prayed specifically through my homeschooling years. I had a daughter who struggled to read, and I just couldn't I just tried everything that all my friends were saying and all these things. And then I just started praying for God to send help. I actually sent a letter to an Above Ruby's letter asking for help. And I had someone mail me a book. And that book was just opened a door for her to learn to read. So sometimes we just need to ask Jesus for help. Like myself, when we were starting, I was praying and asking God, just use our family, just help us, open some doors. And then when he did open a door, I tried to shut it, but with the CEF, but we did just walk forward. And as we walked forward, even as my husband dragged me a little bit, because I did not want to send my kids off to 12 days like with you. No way. I don't send my kids off to people I don't know. But it was. So anyway, I think sometimes we make things a little more difficult. But just pray and ask Jesus. He'll bring people into our lives. He'll bring books. He will. He'll encourage us and just help us to walk forward just life, and just live for him. Just raise your babies. Just love him and go forward and share that love with him and others. And
so keep praying for opportunities. And then when we pray for opportunities, we need to trust him for the answer, because like you said, I pray and pray and pray for these opportunities. And then I forget when the answers come that was actually something I prayed for. Oh yeah. Why did I forget that I prayed for that? That was God's answer. I think we just need to remember that there's no perfect person. We see all of our own faults, and we think that other people have so many more abilities, but we all have rough edges, and stepping forward and going to where God says that's like the sandpaper that helps rough off those edges that need smoothed a little bit, right? Iron sharpens iron, and we learn as we go forward. And as we step out into faith in the unknown thing, and you know what, actually, it occurs to me also that when our children know that we don't do this, like, no, we don't go send our kids to camp, I think our kids are recognizing that this is a step of faith for mom too. And that is such a good example for them to see that, you know what, this is something we haven't done before, but I am been praying about it, and I'm going to walk forward trusting God to work out some of those details, even though it's an unknown for me. But I think definitely bathing that in prayer and setting that foundation of knowing the word and being in prayer about that and about our own family ministry and our children in their lives is so foundational. So, Michelle, would you like to just close us out in prayer?
Yes, I will do that. And one thing I wanted to share before we close, it just kind of came to my mind. My daughter got me a plaque, and it says, "You have no idea how much I've prayed for this, for what I have." I think it was something like, I misread it, but it was something, I'm blessed, but you have no idea how much I've prayed. And I think that is so true. So many times we can look at people, like you might hear myself or you talk, and we might think, oh, they have it all together. No, I'm a big mess about stuff. But you just see and there was a Facebook post, and it just said, all the moms moving the trash bags out of their pictures before they take them. So they're, I was like, yes, that's so, move over to this wall. It's clean over here, so we can take this picture. But we don't think that when we see people. We don't think that. We just see what they post on Facebook or see what they post on Instagram or these things like that. We don't see all the messy, but Jesus is there. And so you might think, oh, well, she has 10 children and life is wonderful. But I had lots of struggles too. I had lots of prayers, hit my knees. I had some kids still, you just hit your knees praying for your kids and just crying out to Jesus to help and just to make a difference. So life is not perfect for others, even though it seems like it is. We're all just in this together, and we just need Jesus. We all just need Jesus. So I just wanted to share that because it came to my mind as we were thinking, as we were talking and closing. But sure, I'd love to pray for us. Dear God, I just praise you, God, and I thank you for all the things, God, and all the ways that you love us, Jesus. And I just can't thank you enough for the things that you've brought into my life, just to teach me, to help me grow, and God, and the things that you have in the future for me. And I praise you. And even though sometimes it hurts, I just thank you for hurts to let go, or it hurts to just to move forward. Our comfort zones are so easy to stay in, Jesus. And I thank you so much for moving me out of my comfort zones through the years, God. And I just pray that you'll be with the women who will be listening to this, God. And I just pray that you will help them feel loved, Jesus. Help them know that you are there and that you're with them right where they are in the middle of whatever they're going through or whatever they want to do for you, Jesus, that you are there and that all they have to do is call upon you, God, and that you'll be with them every step of the way. And Jesus, I just pray that if there's someone listening to this that doesn't know you, that they will feel you too, Jesus, and that you will draw them to you, and that they will call out to you and just ask you to be the Lord of their life. Savior, just help everyone listening to this to know there's hope and that you are that hope. And we just love you so much, and we praise you, and we thank you, and we thank you for what's to come. God, I just can't thank you enough for all you've done for us. And in your precious holy name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. And I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but is there a place that people can connect with you? Do you like to make friends online?
Oh yeah, I love to make friends online. Yeah, Facebook. I'm Michelle Leonard, and then I'm on Instagram too. I know that I'm on some other social things I don't do a lot of, but Instagram and Facebook I do. And I'm Mama MOMMA number 2 and then TEN on Instagram. So yeah, those are my social accounts that I'm active on.
All right, that'd be fun.
Also, I have an email. It's number 2 Leonards@gmail.com. I'm happy to help if anybody has any questions or anything like that. I don't mind helping at all.
That is so great to have a resource. Thank you. And I'm also going to link in the show notes some links for CEF, because it is actually an international ministry. They are in, I believe, every country of the world except for North Korea. And so all across the world. And then locally, you can always go to CEF's website and look up and see if there's a chapter in your area, because this is the season where you could have a 5-day club in your yard. Go invite your friends and host a 5-day club. And then in the fall, you could get involved with a Good News Club at your local school. Now, you don't want to call up the school to get involved with that because it's not the school that coordinates it. It is the local CEF chapter. So try to get a hold of them. And wow, you know what? This has been fun because changing the world from our home and ministry with our family. I think that's just the heart of God.
I hope that you've been encouraged or challenged in your faith today, and that something we discussed prompts you to grow deeper in your walk with the Lord. If it has, make sure you tell a friend so they can grow along with you. And if you or a friend would like to be a guest and share about God's faithfulness in your life, please email me at podcast@tendingfields.net. Because when we tell of God's faithfulness, we never run out of stories.
Whatever is true, whatever is noble, think on these things, think on these things.